Okay, welcome to another episode of Thoughts and Bolts. I'm your host, Pedro Laveria. Today, we're going to go into the Utah Ranch database analysis that was done by Bigelow Aerospace back in 2010. Bigelow Aerospace was the contractor which executed the OSAP program for the Pentagon, which was a secret UFO research program that had a $22 million budget. Okay. This program was outed by the New York Times in 2017 under its nickname ATIP. The program director was Jim Lakatsky. The operations manager was Colin Kelleher. And recently, the co-author of two of their books, George Knapp, um, came out and verified that the recent OSAP document dump that happened on the internet was authentic. A few weeks ago, some of these materials had been leaked online, and George Knapp dared the leakers to leak them all, and they leaked more. I was hesitant to accept them at first, but since George Knapp verified that the documents that were leaked were authentic, I'm going to use them for this video. We're going to focus on this study, but not all of it. It's more than 100 pages long. It's really good. It's very detailed and scientific. However, I want to focus on one page in particular. Now, just so you know, the Utah ranch in question is Skinwalker Ranch, which is in the Uinta Basin in Utah, and it is a UFO hotspot. So if you have a UFO program, you're trying to study UFOs, where are you going to go? You're going to go to where the UFOs are. And the Uinta Basin, Skinwalker Ranch specifically, is a hotspot, and that's where the government went. And here's the page in question, which details the different kinds of entities that were witnessed by the people working on the project. Um, there were humanoids, invisible creatures, wolf-like creature, and hyena-like creature. What I want to focus on, though, is this very interesting pattern. Uh, you'll notice that in the cases where humanoids were seen, okay, 33% of the time they were associated with a UFO sighting. However, when you think about invisible creature, wolf, or hyena, none of those are associated with a UFO sighting. Now, you'll notice it says property events only. That's because people that were working on this program would have experiences on the ranch. They would see the things on the ranch. And when they went back home, back east, they'd see them in their house. And their family members would see them too. And the friends of their family members would see them too. This is called the hitchhiker effect. Okay. And so that's all very interesting because people who were seeing these anomalous phenomenon had no clue what the actual staff in OSAP were doing, or that they were even in OSAP to begin with, right? So that's called the hitchhiker effect. So back to what I was saying earlier, if you look at the humanoid encounters, 33% happen in association with a UAP sighting, with UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. That's the new nomenclature for UFO. It's okay. But with the invisible creature, with the wolf-like creature, with the hyena-like creature, none of those things happen. Okay. Those weren't in association with a UFO sighting. And in the humanoid cases, the humanoids didn't make noise, but the invisible creatures did. So my question is, are we dealing with two different sources of anomalous phenomena? Are we dealing with two different sources of entity encounter? Okay. Um, and the reason I ask this is this. Okay, so listening to the Psicoactivo podcast, um, I got turned on to Jacobo Greenberg, who's a neurophysiologist from the Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México, the UNAM, okay, which is basically the Harvard of Mexico, right? It's a public university, but it's their Berkeley, if you will, their UCLA. It's like really, really good school. And he was a neurophysiologist that did parapsychology research there. Good peer-reviewed stuff. He engineered the synergic theory. This is one of the books I bought. I also bought this book, The Shamans of Mexico and Pachita. So, what distinguishes Jacobo Greenberg from other parapsychologists is that he studied Mexican shamans, right? He wasn't just looking at people who were telepathic or telekinetic or clairvoyant, but he opened the door, opened the window, brought in the tent to the scientific study of these shamans and curanderos. And I think that's interesting because when we talk about Skinwalker Ranch, I think the thing we all do is that we don't take the Navajo explanation or the Ute explanation seriously, right? We do that a priori. I think, like, for us, those of us who aren't Indians, we a priori kind of reject their explanation, right? We don't even give it a second thought, or at least I haven't seen anyone in UFO world do that. So I just wonder if maybe 50% of the stuff that's seen on Skinwalker Ranch has a human origin. Um, Paranormal, right? Let's suppose that that human origin is in the Navajo reservation, right? Because as you know, why is it called Skinwalker Ranch? Well, the Utes and the Navajo had a war. The Utes won, and the Navajo, some of their shaman, as the story goes, cursed the Utes with the Skinwalker. And what's the Skinwalker? According to Navajo tradition, they call themselves the Dene, right? According to the religion of the Dene people, Skinwalker is a shaman, a malevolent shaman that can turn into a wolf and kill people and torture them mentally and all kinds of horrible things, right? And so I just asked the question, what if on the Navajo reservation, there's a tradition of shaman, malevolent shaman that are doing the really messed up stuff that you hear about on Skinwalker Ranch? As you know, if you watch this show, I am a hardcore Kantian. I'm a Schopenhauerian. Okay. I don't believe that our three dimension plus time, matter and energy experience of the world is literally true. I don't believe that space time, matter, and energy as we experience it directly or indirectly through technology is literally true. It is a mental construct, it is a mental symbol which corresponds to and represents an objective reality that we have no direct access to. And the same is true for all other animals. Okay. Kant was the first to kind of figure this out in modern times, and science is catching up with him. So watch my other videos to learn about that. But what if it's possible that some people with very intense psi, and this psi is catalyzed by their intense faith in and through the models, mental models of their Navajo tradition, are able to manipulate what some people experience. Okay. What if they're able to hack somehow that user interface, that cognitive user interface, that cognitive experience of the world, that mental map, which isn't literally true, but is extremely useful in securing the four F's: feeding, fighting, fleeing, and fornicating, right? As all other animals. And what if that kind of intense psychic ability is what's attracting the non-human intelligence, the aliens in their UFOs to the Uinta Basin, either to study them, which seems unlikely because it doesn't wouldn't take that long to study them, or more so to draw our attention to them, right? So maybe there are some Navajo shaman, some malevolent Navajo shaman that can do some really messed up things with their minds and the minds of other people, and they're still doing it against the Utes or whoever lives in the Uinta Basin. They haven't let it go. And aliens, for lack of a better word, the non-human intelligence, are drawn in by that and are drawing our attention to that because it would be proof positive. It would be a a proof of concept that human psi might be just as powerful as their psi if cultivated effectively. I don't know. It's just a theory. But, I think we should look into Hapko Bogrimber's work and more importantly, follow his example and not just wave off indigenous knowledge systems as if they have nothing to contribute to this study of this phenomenon, because I think they do. And I think he understood that. And who knows, maybe that's probably why he disappeared. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Theory I put it forward is that half of what you see at Skinwalker Ranch that's paranormal does have a human origin, and that human origin is to be found at the Navajo reservation, and the other half is non-human, and it's being drawn in by that um, human activity, either most likely in an attempt to draw our attention to it so that maybe we can learn something about ourselves from it. So that's it for today. Please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And remember, like I always say, before you look upward, look inward. Look inward more than you look upward.